Hi everyone! Today is kind of a special day because the first video that I ever made on my channel was my first palette collection video, so this will be an updated version of that. I will go through all the palettes that I have and I will show you, I will tell you a little bit what I think about them, and I will try to not make this video way too long, but I can't promise anything because I do have quite a bit of palettes, so I think we should just jump straight into it. So I'm going to start off by my biggest palettes and kind of get those out of the way because they are kind of cluttering up a little bit. So first palette that I have is the Jaclyn Hill by Morphe palette, and I've used this a little bit and I liked it at first, but right now I just find it to be kind of boring and I don't really find myself reaching for it that often. I said this in my first palette collection video too, but I didn't really know what my makeup aesthetic was really like back then because I have not been into makeup seriously for that long, so I just really wasn't sure what I liked and what I didn't like, and so at the time I really liked this palette. Right now I'm way more into more colorful eyeshadows, and so for me this palette is just not really something that I reach for that often anymore. The next palette that I have is the Zodiac palette by DHC Cosmetics. I just made a video with that. If you want to check that out, I will link that up in the cards. It looks like this. I really like this palette. I think BH has a great formula and I like the color story in this. I think it's really, really good, and I do feel like I need to play with this more, even though I have played with it quite a bit, but I do really, really like it. The next palette that I want to show you is a fairly new palette. This is the Alien palette by Jeffree Star. I've done plenty of videos on this. If you haven't already seen them, I will either link them in the cards or down below in the description box. This is what the palette looks like. I love this palette. I think this palette is great. This is definitely one of the best palettes that I bought this year, so really, really happy that I decided to finally get my first Jeffree Star palette. The next palette that I have is kind of a dupe for the 35B by Morphe, and I got this at the flea market when I went with a friend. This is by a brand called Cara Beauty. And it looks like this. It's giant, but it's really just like a huge rainbow palette, and when I tried it in the video, I've honestly only tried it that one time, but when I tried it I was really impressed, but then I got some comments that were like, aren't you scared to put those on your eyes? And then I kind of went, should I be? Because I haven't used it since, but I did really like it when I tried it, so maybe I should pull it out again. And if there are any palettes in my collection that you guys want to see me do a video on, please let me know down below and I will happily do so. So speaking of the 35B by Morphe, I do actually have that palette, and this is discontinued now because the new James Charles palette took over, which is kind of unfortunate because I really like this palette. Next up is also a fairly new palette, and this is the new Kat Von D Fetish palette. I have not played with this as much as I wanted to because I happened to get so many new palettes right after I bought this, so I only did like 4 looks with it, which was the 2 videos that I made. So if you guys want to see more with this palette, let me know, and also if there's anything in particular that you want to see me do with any of these palettes, also just leave it down in the comments and I'll see what I can do. Next up I have a palette by Carity. I've showed this on my channel quite a bit. This is the All Matte palette. I like this a lot. I think the quality of this is pretty good, and I definitely find myself reaching for it for certain shapes. Next I have one of the most expensive palettes in my collection, and this is the Sunset palette by Natasha Denona. I think the quality of this is amazing, and I wish that all her palettes had this formula. I did try the Tropic palette and I just did not like it because she had changed the formula and it was just way different and it wasn't as good anymore. So right now I'm kind of on the fence about Natasha Denona's eyeshadow palettes. They're not something that I want to run out and buy as soon as they get released because I don't know if I can trust the formula or not. So, but if a palette comes out that I really like and people have made really good reviews about it, I will probably pick it up because I do really like Natasha Denona as a brand. The next 3 palettes are 3 that I got in BoxyCharm, and the first one is this Pretty Vulgar palette. Looks like this, so it's just a very neutral, cool tone palette, and I'm just not really about it, honestly. I only keep it because it's something that I don't really have in my collection already, so I'm not sure if I should declutter this or give it away to someone or find a way to use it. I haven't decided yet, so this is not going to be a declutter because I'm not ready to declutter yet. I want to wait until I know I have a lot of eyeshadow palettes that I am ready to get rid of, and that time is just not right now, so that will be coming though. The next palette is by Crown, and it's also a warm tone neutral palette, which again, not really my jam. I played with it once in my BoxyCharm video, and like you could see in the palette, it came broken, so I'm not a huge fan of it. I mean, the quality was pretty good, so I'm sure a lot of people really ended up liking that palette. Now, the one palette that I do really like that we got in BoxyCharm is the Olimar Cosmetics palette, and I think this palette is really, 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 really good. Like, the quality of this, amazing. I can't wait for them to come out with more. I'm very intrigued by the brand and I would love to try more palettes from them. This one is a palette that I didn't buy myself, and this is the Alchemist. Wait. It doesn't even say on it what the name is because it's so faded, but like I said, I did not buy this myself. I think it's called the Alchemist palette by Kat Von D, and it's just got 4 duochromes in it, and I love using this as my inner corner highlight. I think this palette is a staple in my collection now because I find myself reaching for it a lot just for like an inner corner pop. The only palette that I have by Anastasia is the Subculture palette because this is the color story by them. Why am I even showing you this? Y'all know what this looks like. This is the only color story from Anastasia that I've been really drawn to. I did want to get the Prism palette, but I never ended up buying it. I got it from my sister-in-law, and I have used it once because she let me play with it, and I did really like it. But as soon as I decided I kind of wanted it, it was sold out everywhere, so I wasn't able to get my hands on it. But the next one that I have is from Viseart, and this is the Dark Mattes palette. Again, it's one of those palettes that I don't really reach for that often, but when I do, it's really, really good. And the most expensive palette in my collection is from Pat McGrath, and this is the Mothership Decadence palette. This is her all shimmer palette, and it is beautiful. I really need to pull this out more. The only thing that's kind of preventing me from doing so is that all these shadows tend to crease on me unless I use glitter glue, and I'm not really a fan of that glitter glue life, but if I have to, I will make it work, and these are the kind of shadows that I need to use glitter glue with, so that's like the one thing that's kind of holding me back from using it, but I really do need to use it more. I also picked up 2 of the Jaclyn Hill Morphe Vault palettes, and I have the Armed and Gorgeous palette. There's been so much controversy on these because of different formulas and stuff and pressing issues and whatnot, and honestly, I think that there was a good batch and a bad batch. I know a lot of people have said otherwise. I don't believe in it because they bought all theirs at the same time, and so either they have a good one or a bad one, but I bought these from different locations, and so my Dark Magic palette is actually really, really good, but when I used my Armed and Gorgeous palette, I thought it sucked. It was really hard to work with, and I was not a fan. I could definitely tell the difference between the 2 formulas, so I mean, believe what you want, but I really do think that they had good ones and bad ones. And somehow I only have 2 ColourPop palettes, and I have the Ooh La La palette, which I haven't made a video on. I think this is just a really, really cute pink and purple palette. I like this a lot. And someone also sent me my ColourPop Make Up Your Mind palette, and this is so much better than I thought it was going to be. All of these shadows are absolutely fantastic, and I am so happy to have this. This is a hidden gem. If you can get your hands on this still, I would really recommend it. Next up, I have some single shadows, and I don't really have a lot of singles. This is a palette that I have from MAC. Not all of these are from MAC. This thing down here is from Inglot, and then I have some Makeup Geek shadows that I got in BoxyCharm. And yeah, I mean, I'm not really a huge fan of the MAC formulas, so I don't really reach for that much, but they do have a couple of unique shades that I do like. I also have a Build Your Own Inglot palette, and not a lot of these are from Inglot. I want to say these 2 right here are from Inglot, and then I have a Deep Potted Venus palette that I got from a friend. I have some single shadows from Kitten Boss Cosmetics, and then all of these up here are from a Deep Potted and Touched Nona palette. So I do reach for this. I do like most of the shadows in here. Now this basket right here, holy shit, that's heavy. I am way more excited to talk about because I have a lot of indie brands in this, and this past year I've really gotten into indie brands, and indie brands have the best color stories, and the palettes are also not that big. So I'm gonna try to go by brand. I'm not sure, they might be a little bit scattered in here. I kind of try to keep it organized, but my life is never organized. So I'm gonna start off by Blush Tribe, and I have 3 palettes from them. The first one is this little blended quad, and I really like this. I made a video on it. I think the quality of the shadows is great, and it's something that I love traveling with this because it's such an easy way to like bring a pop of color that might not be in the other palettes that I'm bringing. So I love that little thing. I also have the Hasina 2, which is probably one of my favorite palettes. I kind of knew it would be when I got it because I'd already seen some really good reviews on it, so I'm super happy I picked that up, and I will for sure make more videos on that, and I'm pretty sure this will be in my top 5 palettes of the year, which I will actually do a palette countdown, so I'll be starting soon with the 5th ranked palette that I have in my collection, and then I'll do a look with it, and then we'll do like the palette countdown leading up to Christmas and New Year, so I'm excited about that. I also have the Blossom palette by Blush Tribe as well. Now, I'm kind of iffy on this. Not all the shades in this palette are that great. I mean, it's a good palette depending on which shades you go for. Some of the pastels are just not that great, so, but I still like the palette, and I'm happy I have it because I do reach for it. The next palette that I have is one from Certify, and this is their Destiny palette. I really like Certified's formula and I really want to get more of these palettes. I think this is so beautiful. I've done a pretty in-depth review on this. I will link that up in the cards as well, but I really like this and I can't wait to see what else they come out with next year, because if they come out with something that calls my name, I'm 100% picking it up. Another palette that I just made a video on is the OMFG Cosmetics Fall Vibes palette. I think this is super cute. I really like this palette a lot. My only complaints with it is that the shimmer shades just aren't that great. So, I mean, given that half of this palette is all shimmers, you know, you gotta kind of give and take. So, I mean, I like the palette, I like the mattes in it, and I can make the shimmers work, but they take a little while to build up. Here's another palette that I got in Boxy's Charm that I forgot to mention, and this is the Meat Matchmaker by The Balm. And I don't really like this palette, it's just not really my style, so I mean, whenever I do end up decluttering, that one is definitely going, like I already know that. Another indie brand that I tried this year is Be Elegant, and this is their Halloween palette. This was limited edition, so it is sold out now, but I wasn't sure how I felt about this when I tried it for the first time. The shimmer formulas are really strange. I don't know what they did with it, but it's almost like it has a black base with glitter in it, but then when you put it on your eyes, they actually look kind of nice, so I don't know how I feel about this. But I do want to keep playing with this because it does have some pretty unique shades, and I think in December I'm gonna try to use this pressed glitter because, you know, 31 days of glitter, we need some glitter in our life. So I'm gonna pull out this palette in December for one of my looks and try out that glitter, and I'm kind of excited about it. The one palette that I have from Violet Voss is the Rainbow palette. I love this palette. I think this is such good quality. I love the shimmers in it. I love everything about this palette. I think this is amazing. The next two palettes are both from Menagerie Cosmetics, and they only have two palettes, and it's the Feral palette and the Dragon Child palette. Now the Dragon Child palette is originally from Makeup Monsters, but they changed their names to Menagerie Cosmetics, so they are the same brand. And if you haven't seen these, this is the Dragon Child palette. I love the color story in this. 100% in my top 5 of the year. And the next one is my Feral palette, which is their newest palette. I will have a 3 Looks 1 palette coming up with that very shortly. From Strobe Cosmetics, I have the Creepy Cute palette and the Divinity palette. I like both of these a lot. I think the quality of the shadows are really, really good. From BH Cosmetics, I have 2. I have the Take Me Back to Brazil palette, which one of these shades have shattered, which is kind of a shame because I like that blue. I don't reach for this palette that often, but this was one of the first like rainbow palettes that I bought, and I did use it a lot back then, and I got some pretty good looks out of it. So I mean, you can definitely make this palette work and make something really nice if you just kind of take your time and build up the shadows. So I do really like that palette, and I feel like it's definitely one that I should be reaching for more. Let me know if you want to see a palette bingo or something like this, and I think that could be kind of fun. The other one I have from BH Cosmetics is their Festival palette, or Weekend Festival palette. I will have a video up on that when you see this, so I will also link that up in the corner if I remember. And since I only have 2 brands left, I guess I will end with Juvia's Place because the other brand that I have is Huda Beauty, and I only have 2 palettes from her. I have 2 of her little mini palettes, and this is the Mauve Obsessions, which looks like this. I honestly don't really know why I bought this because this color scheme is not something that I reach for a lot, but I really just wanted to try her formula, and I thought that, you know, a little mini palette would be a good idea. I did have the Electric Obsessions palette, but that one fell on the floor and it shattered everywhere, so that one is no longer in my collection. And the other one is the Emerald Obsessions, and I have not had this for that long, but I did do some videos on it, and I really, 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 really like this palette. I think this is great. So we're going on 20 minutes, which is not too bad. I was expecting this to be a lot longer, but we still have Juvia's Place to go. So I have all of these. The only ones that I don't have is the new Warrior palette. I also don't have the first Warrior palette or the first Nubian palette, I think it is. But other than that, I think I have them all. So this is the Freak palette. This one came out this summer, I want to say, and this is so pretty. I have a lot of videos on this one too, and I really like this. I also have the Saharan palette, which I have not made a video about because I kind of got this at the same time as I got some other palettes, and this one just ended up in the back of the line. So if you want to see me do anything with this, let me know because I would love to. I love to play with my Juvia's Place palettes, so any excuse I have to play with them, I would love to do so. I also have the Festival palette, which is my newest palette in my Juvia's collection, and it looks like this. I can't wait to keep playing more with this because this color story is so inspiring to me, and I have so many looks in my head that I want to do with this. I really just want to like take my makeup off right now and start playing with this because I love it. Another one that I have not made any videos on, I don't think, is Nubian 2. I also got this at the same time as I got the other palette that I said I hadn't filmed with, the Saharan palette. And this one isn't as inspiring to me. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still love it a lot, and I just need to find time to film with this because I just, you know, priorities. Sometimes other palettes just come first and then you sort of forget about the other ones that you bought, which is kind of a shame, so I need to try to get better with that. One of my favorite palettes from Jeffree's place is the Magic Mini, or the Magic palette, but I have the mini version. I love this palette as well, and this will also probably be in my top 5 of the year. It's so hard to choose. I would love to know if you had to choose the top 5 palettes of 2018 in your collection, what would they be? Because I'm having a really hard time. Like, I have sort of an idea, but once I get down to like the number 4 and 5 spot, I'm so just lost because there are so many palettes that could take that spot and I don't know which ones to put there. So yeah, moving on. I also have the Masquerade Mini by Juvia's, and I actually did do a 3 looks 1 palette with this, but then something happened with my memory card and I had all of those looks on my memory card and I lost them all, so that one does not exist on my channel. So if you do want me to do something with this palette, yeah, just let me know and I will see if I can get around to refilming a 3 looks 1 palette with this, because I do want to have that up on my channel. And this is the Saharan 2 by Jeffree's place. I have done a couple of videos on this. I like this a lot. I prefer it with other palettes, not so much on its own, but it's still a great palette. The quality is just like any other Jeffree's place palette, and I really, really love their formula. And the last 2 palettes by Jeffree's I actually got at the same time, and these were my first 2 palettes that I ordered. And the first one is the Douce palette. This is just like a very soft, romantic, like everyday kind of palette. This would be like my kind of everyday kind of palette, and I like this color story so much. I think it's so unique. I also haven't filmed with this, so again, if you want to see something, let me know. I also have the Zulu palette, of course, because I am a sucker for a good rainbow colorful palette. I love this. This was the first palette that I ever did a 3 looks 1 palette with, and it was my first time ever doing a tutorial on camera, so this palette kind of has a soft spot in my heart, so I really just, this is my little baby and I love this so much. So those were all the palettes I have in my collection, I think. Let me know which palettes that you want to see me do anything with. Let me know if you were surprised by the amount of palettes I have and if there were any brands that you thought maybe I had or didn't have. I hope you are enjoying my Christmas content so far. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new to my channel, I would love it if you will consider subscribing, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!